Okay. Alright. We won't be doing this too long. Alright, fuckers. It's gonna be really dark out. Hopefully we can do this. Alright, fuckers. So today we are all about gonna be talking about pretty much what's going on is we're gonna be talking about priorities, diet, training, and just looksmax and more. So welcome back, fuckers. And today it's me, the Hood. I got that from the arrow. Hope people fuck with it. I just thought it was cool. I was actually gonna make this channel into a person could search it up. I was gonna make this channel kind of based off of a mask mediator, where he's like always in a mask, but I was gonna be in a hood, and I was just gonna do like physical challenges or whatever, because I was inspired. But I might do that still. Who knows? But pretty much what I'm gonna be talking about today is that. So welcome back to the Personal Talk. I am your co-host, Johnny, and let's get to it. So, in everything in life, or whatever the case is, I think what matters is focusing on objective principles and focusing on the goal and whatever it takes to get to that goal. Right? Whatever that's the best option or move. So, alright, what do I mean by that, right? You're gonna be like, Johnny, what do you mean by this? What I'm getting at is I've done so much looks maxing. I've been doing a lot of geomaxing, health maxing, and looking into the lifestyle maxing. I've been doing this stuff for about 3 years, I would say. But I really looked into all this more in a year. Not consistently, not fully, and I haven't gone into really full depth of research articles. It's a lot of questions of AI, YouTube, and basic kind of knowledge, surface level sources that I'm getting it from. Haven't gone too much in the analytical dive of it, or whatever the case is, the extreme of actually figuring out. But what I'm getting at is I think every human wants to be the best that they can be. Or be the best. Every human, every guy for sure wants to be the best ever. Better than everybody. But they want to be the best human they can be. And I think that's more important, because the way you frame it, everybody is the main character in their own life. You objectively are not superior than others because of genetics. Our whole thing is we are bigger than one person. That's why there is no God. That's why there is no superiority. That's why we choose to believe in a God and to humble ourselves. So we are going to be talking about a little bit of the religion, because religion kind of helps explain what the whole life and everything, and it's not to convert people, but to understand and the purpose and how it can improve someone's life, but also the fact of it could be a hoax or whatever. So religion has set a lot of rules and a lot of boundaries and a lot of things. Now, I'm not the one to dismiss or be hating on religion, because I grew up once, which I don't want to be too biased. I want to go off of pure objective stuff. My whole channel is basically pure off objective and storytelling. So, if you didn't know, I grew up, Catholic, in a Catholicism household and school. I went to private school, grew up Catholic. Later on, converted into Islam. I don't know if I would say I'm a Muslim, but I wouldn't say I'm not either. I have a lot of respect for my Muslim brothers and sisters, and religion as a whole. I have a lot of respect for Islam. But I don't do the wisest choices or say or do, I don't say or do or a bunch of things that are pretty much appropriate for the religion. And because of my choices, because of certain things, and the lack of practice, I don't really identify as a Muslim. Not really. I went through a phase. I did it for a year, and which I know is not good. It shows a lot of the character. It's just, the thing is, religion is a very sensitive and delicate and a very difficult topic, because there is pre-recorded history of, Jesus being on earth. But the problem is, there's a bunch of things. History has been altered, changed, wanted to perceive a certain way. There's just so much principles or so much things that have come into play that we don't really know what's true and what's not true. Maybe there was a guy that, was Jesus but claimed different. Like for Muslims, Isa. But as Americans follow, it's Jesus or Yahweh. There's just so many things that have been depicted or changed, where it's very hard to it's been very hard to know which is right and which one's wrong. And I think we're back. Sorry for the Wi-Fi. And because of this, it's a very vague topic. So, in anything in life that's not really, you can find that's objective or a statistic number, go off by, there's a thing that I remember hearing Spider-Man talk about, and it's the scientific something. You test, you hypothesize, and you experiment. But test, run trials, figure it out, and see which one comes out the better thing. And every human, every person wants a better outcome or a better life, pretty much. And what I'm getting at is the whole trend, BP trend, looksmax trend, everything, it has a very truthful to it, but also an extreme portion to it. Looking into the science and human nature, the human nature does not like extremities. The best looking people, the best life, the best everything is usually a well-balanced life. Extremes do not exist or are good for the human in general. It's just not wired in us, unless we change our genetic code or whatever the case is. So, with that being said, I'm losing my train of thought. I'm going everywhere. That's my problem. I need to improve my staying on topic. And gotta move it so I could Wi-Fi. So for that being said, the whole BP is truth, but also inaccurate. Because it's all genetically determined and this and that. Or the primal people, which you can't really know. And they even know that you can't know how far back what everybody was doing historically, because it wasn't always documented. And if it was documented, maybe it was documented by the very best, maybe not by the poor. There is just so many things that you can't really fully do, except for experiment and test in your life. And they would say that the past is history, tomorrow's a mystery, but today is a gift. And Goatus, the famous black pillar, or primal, mostly primal, known for that, is all about you don't remember, or not remember, but you don't live in the past, so it doesn't matter. You don't live in the future because it's never going to come, or you don't know if it's going to come. But the present matters right now. And there's a lot of philosophical takes where it's true, and I believe it, and I will agree with them, and gave a better outlook of life. But the whole primal and needing to be primal, I think there is things written in our biology and evolutionary that will always be wired into us. And I think there's some things that don't need to be extreme. Like, the same motherfuckers, they're posting videos inside their home, not really doing shit. I like people pretty much who are realistic and not extreme. Just realistic, understanding, and just not a fucking dumbass. So, yeah. The first person who ever was like that was probably clavicular, but in some regards, I think he is still a little not smart, or not smart, but certain takes are not really accurate, like the fighting, or, you know, just take steroids at a young age. I think that's a pretty dumb thing. And as like for him, there's doing it, like, if you don't really need to do that, why the hell would you do that? And it's like, for what? For a little more, like, better outcome. It's not going to be as significant, or it's just certain things where it's like, I know you're trying to max out or do, like, the best, but, like, my favorite content creator in the whole looks maxing or BP would be pretty much anybody that's just very knowledgeable and smart, you know. I've watched some content creators and they've tried it, like Austin Wayne. He's tried being primal. He said that he stopped because it's a little dumb. Base IQ has done the raw diet. He stopped because it's a little dumb. Or just only eating meat, a meat-based diet only. So yeah, I would say what else? Other people have said certain things too. Yeah, where they're a little realistic. And they're all about, like, the optimization or just being not a dumbass. And face metrics would be the YouTuber I would look at, because he's all about, do you need to max out everything? Every little hypocritical thing, you know, the whole looks maxing thing is all about being, you know, they're going into deep analysis and they're going into all this and that, but it's like, do you really need that in that sense? I think what matters is focusing on your weakness or whatever's holding you back in life, so you can continue to move forward. But it's like people. I think there are superior humans when it comes down to your lifestyle, your choices, everything that you do. Which, I mean, not really superior. Wrong choice of words. Maybe like a more valuable or a more person that you can rely on. That's like the right choice. But besides that, they're finding reasonable people in the community and being smart, you know, not being really a dumbass. So I'm going into hyperfixation or trying to looks matter so much, because it's all about pretty much determinant of health. Some of it's based off of your your phenotype of the world or land that you get. There are certain things that are true that is going to be actually always kind of be better, but I don't really know. I think with people in general, whatever is going to be objectively true, that's what matters the most. And whatever is going to be subjective, then it's like a preference. That I believe we live in a yin and a yang world. But anyway, besides that, find people in this content, in this sphere. If you're looking into looks maxing or BP or whatever the case is, find someone who's actually like a little knowledgeable and realistic and not really a dumbass. Like the whole red pillars and being like, you know, just sleep with a bunch of women and do all this and that. It's true what they say. Guys do want to sleep with a bunch of girls. Guys do, if they're in a relationship, want to sleep with a bunch of girls or look at a bunch of girls, but do they really want to act on it? Yeah, you can have all the resources. Yeah, you want to do all that, But you gotta remember, every human being wants to make their life easier, not harder, and more enjoyable. That's the whole point. So why would they want to do that? I'm not saying that women are suffering or like, insufferable or whatever the case is. It's just like it becomes more harder and more difficult. That's why the peak of like Muslim people, of the men, will have 4 wives, but actually in the whole religion, it's actually way lower than that. A lot of guys actually have 4 wives. And that's why monogamous relationships usually do well compared to, if you had a bunch of baby mamas and there's a bunch of kids in the house. A monogamous relationship does a lot better. So, yeah, the whole thing. Now, I do agree, privy to your woman, not in like a competition state, but in a sense of like, a sense of urgency of like understanding and letting them know like, hey, I could leave you. And the same thing for the woman, you could leave them. It's a balance. I think there is a balance, man and woman. But the whole red pill and all that, they're gone to sometimes the extreme, a little too much, and sometimes they act a little like unprofessional. And that's the only thing that's bothering. Because everybody's all about like anti-government, this and that, they won't speak their mind or whatever, but it's like also you still got to be a little respectful at the end of the day. And some people just don't have respect or whatever the case is. And yeah, so besides that, just find someone reasonable in the space. Hopefully I can be that person, or for sure I would lean into face metrics. So with that being said, face metrics believes focus on what matters that needs to be fixed, whatever you're lacking, whatever is the most important. In things in life, your priorities matter way more than your non-priorities. Priorities will always matter the most, and you need to do it now, whatever the case is. I've been a year out of school, I've been looking into hobbies, I've been looking into a bunch of things, and I realize now, if they're good, they're very important, but they're not as important as, like, I need a job, I need a career, I need a substantial income, a good lifestyle, I need to find the woman that I want to do so I can reproduce. Those are the real important things, because it's all about the choices of face part. Everything else is just secondary. There is always going to be the main, and there's going to be secondary. Your main will always be the most important and be the most time that you need to spend the most on. So, yeah, which is looks, health, building a good lifestyle, and for me, reproducing, because it's just written in us in an evolutionary stance, and I want to reproduce with a woman. I want to have kids. I want to have a big family. And that's what I wish for. And if I want to do that, I need to make sure that I have the capabilities of doing that for the woman and doing that for pretty much me. And yeah, for the woman and kids, I mean. But yeah. So right now, the whole thing is trying to be overly perfect or overly extreme or whatever. It's not. Extremities are good for the movies, the shows, whatever the case is, the minute details. But in real life, it's not realistic. It's not really good. What really matters in real life is the big things, right? So it's like the big flaws or whatever you're really lacking, or whatever your biggest halos. Those are the ones. It's like when someone has very beautiful eyes, they don't really pay attention to anything else besides the beautiful eyes. So in life, in general, focus on the main priority. That's my goal. So that's number one on the whole looksmax and stuff. My goal right now is that I'm gonna save so I can do some little facial reconstruction, get a little one-on-one call with face metrics, and then I need to, which I'm not gonna change my height or anything, I need to just bulk, get it suitable for my skeletal structure. So like probably be around 160 to 175. 160 is optimal because I want to do breakdancing and calisthenics, but 175 is best for the skeletal and structure in general. And I need to besides the bulk, that's pretty much it. The income, find a woman, and everything else is just secondary from that point on. What else is that? You need to work hard. That's another thing that people need to know. It doesn't matter how good your genetics is. Genetics gets you to the high end. It gets you to the best fast. It just gets you there faster than others. But when you have talent around everybody, you gotta work still. Usain Bolt, you watch his documentary, he had to still work. Very people at the very top, you don't think you don't have to work? You know? It's like having two of the same best cars. Literally the same exact. Which one's gonna be more reliable? Which one's gonna be more consistent on the winning? The one with the guy that is maintaining it, or the one that's not? So that still requires hard work to maintain it. It still requires discipline. It requires doing it. Some days you're not gonna want to do it. It's still all it requires. It's not gonna always just be the number one easy thing. And life literally happens. Even at the best genetics, we see people who are very beautiful and they kill themselves, or whatever the case is. You can have it all. Things can happen, or you can get assassinated. It doesn't matter. Okay, you're not God. You're not untouchable. We all bleed. We all die the same. It's annoying and stupid that people make it to like the most number one fucking thing in the world, where it's like, oh my god, these people are super good looking, so they have to be superior than everybody. It's like, no, they got blessed, they got the lucky lottery, they had good epigenetics, they got taken care of, they got in surgery, they done so much shit than you fucking did. That's all the case is. That's all it is. So I'm gonna be giving you a little tips. It's important on the diet part I'm gonna be talking about now. It's important to eat clean. So what do I mean by that? I saw in my post photos or videos one day in the future, I started working out, like lifting weights, when I was in 7th grade. I was told if I want to gain weight or gain muscle, eat a lot of protein, and I was just figuring out whatever I was just eating whatever. I just needed to eat. That was their main concern, just eat. So I started eating. I started making smoothies because I was told I should get smoothies. Started doing that, and I actually did pack on muscle definition, and I improved a lot more in my athletic performance. The only problem is I was overtraining like crazy. So that also goes in the training aspect. I overtrained like crazy. Your training is not as important as your diet, but it's still important. So find things that were the training, the rest, the intensity, whatever the case is, how many times out of the week. Find what's most optimal for your goals and whatever is healthy, whatever the case is. If you're playing contact or a rough sport, more sports require more work than others, and requires more balance. Navigate it, figure out, find what's best for you and what's needed for you, and to protect you and have your good health, your good looks, but doing that sport in general. It requires a lot. That's why there's professional coaches. That's why there's the diet and nutrition. That's why elite people have the very best, because not just you figuring out it's a time-consuming habit, but it's very difficult. And some things you need professionals. So my number one key thing is too, whatever you can't do, go to a professional. Go talk to, because you might not be smart enough to figure it out on your own. You might waste too much time, and you don't want to waste too much time while you're getting punched in the face or going through certain repercussions of certain things you're doing. So that's what I'll say. But I would say on like the training, figure out what's optimal, and listen to your body. When I was running track, I got way faster. When I started less training, finding out what worked best for me and what I was lacking, I saw the biggest improvement. I was lacking speed and I was lacking strength. I started lifting, I started sprinting, I got way faster. I did cross country, I did less miles, and I improved way faster. I did less work. Another key is that I wouldn't work out if I was really in pain or sore, whatever the case is. So those were the big improvements. Being smart, doing it smart, paying attention. Do that with the training. Same thing with your diet. So my diet, when I was actually gaining weight and gaining definition in 7th grade, I was eating whatever, doing whatever. I gained progress. I gained better composition on the body, but it plateaued. Did it 8th grade. We were houseless. My family, my mother and I and my sister, houseless. And then when we got the house, I had a bulk. I was severely underweight. I started consuming whatever. I was literally started hitting the gym, following whatever kind of like David Later athletes or whatever. I was just taking a bunch of supplements. And then I was just eating whatever and a lot of protein shakes. Saw a huge improvement. I plateaued on that faster. I was a little like inconsistent. And then sophomore year, I started lifting. I got a lot stronger, better body composition. That was another thing. The lifting weights, I actually lifted. So that was the bigger improvement that I was lacking. But the diet was like still the same. Now, freshman year, I was consuming the smoothie thing just like before. Number one thing for people when you're really can't eat or whatever, which it shouldn't be like that, the whole bulking and aggressively like you need to eat and just stuff your face in, that is retarded, that is dumb. Don't eat just whatever. Eat very clean. Eat what you need. Less and higher quality is always going to be better, but always try to get the calories that you need. But the quality of the food matters more, and the nutritional value matters way more than just the calories. You see people eat eat way more calories, but the person who's eating way less and have nutritional dense vitamins and the nutrition of it performs and looks way better than the guy who's just eating a bunch of calories. So that's the biggest tip. And if you can't eat or whatever, have a healthy smoothie. I did that my freshman year, and I saw the biggest change. With sophomore year, I was kind of doing that, and then I saw a bigger change my senior year. So my senior year, I gained the most weight. I gained like 25 pounds. I was like 125. I gained 25, got to 140. Right? I think that's how it works. Yeah, 140. No. Oh, how can I not do something? 15 pounds? 125. Yeah, I think like 15, 20. Something like that. Because 125, or maybe I was 120. I can't remember. 20 pounds. 25, 20. I think I was like 120 back then. And then I gained 20 pounds in like 2? It's almost 3, I think. And by then I was just eating pretty much whatever. I was having a pizza every day to get the caloric, because I was focusing on caloric instead of the nutrients. And then I would have it with a smoothie that was like a high caloric too, that had more like nutritional value. And surely enough, I think like in a month or two, I gained 20 pounds. Now, was the composition like good where it needed to be? No, it wasn't that great. The composition wasn't that great. And before, back then when I was gaining weight, I was eating a lot more healthier, and it was less processed, but it was very slow and it was less aggressive, and the performance dropped. My bone was so highly inflamed, I actually got shin splints for the first time because of it. Shin splints, and then the way I was training, I was trying to lift and do cross at the same time. But that's what happens when you don't have your main priority and what you need to be focusing on. You can't do it all at once. That's why you need to break it up with certain things at certain times. You got to be very smart with what you do. So that happened. And then the caloric, I was just eating dead food pretty much. I was just eating calories, which helped, I guess, but it wasn't actually helping my body too much, and it was actually fucking it up more. It gave me the size, but it wasn't giving me the composition, the nutrition, the recovery. It wasn't giving everything that was pretty much there and what's more important. And I was getting it only probably from the smoothie that I was getting, because that was 1,000 calories. So that's why eating clean, and then why all that matters. But I think by my track time, I was just eating a lot more cleaner. I was training a lot more smarter. I was focusing on the main priority, and I dropped, like in the 800, I dropped, which I didn't train prior. I just went to time trial, and then I had the meet next. I was running 219 at the trial, and then I dropped to 208. I dropped really fast. I never did the 800 before. It was my last year, and I was like, I want to try the 8. Dropped significantly, the most difference. And even then, I still wasn't training too correctly, because I was training less, but I was also like powerlifting too, where my body was taxed every day. I was sprinting, right? I was doing high quality training like running sesh, and then I was lifting. So my body was tired all the time. But the food and everything was correct. My sleep was better. Everything was a lot better than cross, but the priority thing, I fucked it up again. But now I know, right? So that's what I'll say. Know your priority, know what matters currently in the moment. Not everything, you can't do it always all at once. If you can, great. If you can't, know your priority, what's more important. And be smart with everything you do. So that's what I'll say. The training, now I know what I needed to do. Another one thing, I never stay consistent with the diets. I always, if I made a bulk, or I changed weight, or I got bigger or stronger or whatever, I will eventually plateau. And the reason why that happened is because of, one, the training. I wasn't training it better. I was just going and doing the same exact thing. When I was doing that, I wasn't actually progressive overloading until later on. And I only did that for a month or two, and then I stopped. And then now I don't really lift weights. But progressive overload, actively trying to improve it. Increasing and trying to do better. And then second was maintaining the diet. And the reason why is because the consistency was very hard for me. And why the consistency was hard was because, number one, key advice that I never did with any throughout my years, which I will start doing, and I will keep you updated on like the whole fitness, nutrition, and all that. And we'll see, like, in a 2 to 4 month span of like trying to get to 160. I wasn't doing pre-meals. I wasn't preparing the food. If I had the food right away, which I think the reason why I actually gained the most I've ever did my senior year is because I was actually just door dashing food. I was getting Smoothie King, and I was getting pizza almost every day. And if I wasn't getting pizza, I was getting Subway, which shows why I was doing so bad, or I got injured, or whatever the case is, because it wasn't optimal training. I wasn't doing everything correctly. And it's funny because when I started doing everything better, like stopped lifting heavy, I jumped from 19 minutes with shin splints to 17:20 in like literally a month, which is crazy. And then the diet was still fucking me up. But now I know. So what really matters and what's needed is your main priority, whatever you're doing, being smart with everything else. And now I know for me to improve and actually stay consistent on eating and doing good, because I always had very good with water. And the reason why I always did good with water was because I always had a big bottle of water and I could just chug the water. I was always doing that. I was always drinking water. So the water, I never had a problem, thank God. I had a problem my freshman year, but after that I never had a problem again. And the problem is with the meals, and I'm telling people out there, if you don't have a chef and you have to do it on your own, literally, and you're trying to aim for a goal of fitness or whatever, pre-meals are the key. There are some principles, bodybuilders, that they did that are smart, which is good, but even bodybuilders don't do that. Athletes do that. Models do that. Actors do it. So if you want, like, you know, consistency, do whatever it takes. You know, have your training on the board. Anything in life, the consistency matters more. Consistency matters way more. And I think that's one of the things I got lucky. Because even though I plateaued or I failed or fucked up or didn't stick to it all the time, I consistently came back. Consistency, what matters. The effort of trying matters way more than anything. And if you really want to be consistent every day, have a plan, have a routine, have a schedule. Pre-meal, that saves time. That helps a lot. Be smart of what you do and what you need to do. That's my key thing of all of this. It's like, for an example, like the whole VP is like the most optimal hair, the best for you. It's like, motherfucker, who gives a shit? Your hair, like, yes, it frames the face, it makes you better. But the style, the length, all that matters is when it's the weather, whatever. Like, other factors come into it besides the looks. Your hair is more than just defined by the looks. It's also with other things. There's so many things and elements. Like, you gotta be really smart, be real logical, and not be a fucking dumbass. So when you're doing shit, whatever I say, if you don't know, figure it out, look into it. Whatever the case is, try, fail. Hopefully be smart of what you're failing at, because if you're getting like tattoos or anything that's, could permanently alter your life, then it's like you really need to go to a professional. If anything that you're doing that could permanently alter your life, go to a professional. And I'm not meaning one that's just a professional just because they have their license or whatever. I mean someone who is consistently rated good, consistently has a flaw or like a flawless record, or just excelling, because those are the ones that you want to put your life in their hands and make sure they get you right and not fuck you up. If it's, surgery, blood work, or, nutrition, or whatever the case is, that's actually really important. So be smart. Whatever you don't know, go to a professional, but be smart who you choose to. Everything has to be calculated in life, and I know people don't like that, but for high stakes things, not like low stakes. Like if you're going out or just at your house and watching a movie, like, you don't have to think too fucking much. But things that matter, or you need to think, like, be very calculated, because it's a permanent alteration of your life. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say, and hope you guys enjoy the live. And I'm gonna go pretty much. So peace.